Hello, welcome to the Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. It's Tuesday morning for me. I don't know what time it is in the rest of the world for you guys, but I'm joined by the stats machine himself, half robot, half man, all calculator, and we're here to do the AOS stats for this week. Hello, Sir LLV.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm great, thank you. How are you? Suffering from jet lag after your trip over here for Bobo?
Yeah, I've been back nearly a week, but it's a 9 hour flight. I think they say it's one day for every hour you're in. Not the flight, sorry, we're 8 hours behind, so it's one hour lag for every hour you have to go through or something along those lines. So
But we've missed quite a few stat shows the past couple of weeks with you traveling, and with us breaking the studio down to go to Bobo to set the studio up. So I'm really excited to see what's happened with a couple of events underneath. We also have got a big kind of like in-depth look at the stats from Bobo, so a really large. It's only the second time that the Age of Sigmar community has got close, or no, third time almost this year that we've got close to 200 people at an event. So it's exciting seeing what the game looks like at that kind of like depth, right?
yeah, it's almost like sometimes three or four events in one regarding size. So yeah, it's always good when you get those full breakdowns. So big thank you to Johnny for providing all that, Excel wizard himself.
Yeah, so that's great. So, Mick Wendell, thank you for subscribing on Twitch. So, big shout out if you're watching on Facebook, or then give us a like or a thumb. If you leave any comments, we won't see them because we're taking comments on Twitch. If you're on Twitch and you're a subscriber, like Mick Wendell has been for 4 months, then and also the leader, I think, in Gutbuster Stats. Then big shout and love to you. Elf Bros in here, Shadowhammer, Brad Glover, Sunny. So we've got people from Canada, Australia, England, Ireland. So join us. We're a big international community, and that's the coolest bit about the stats. Hey Blaze, and then if you're watching on YouTube, thank you very much for watching there. Again, if you're leaving comments, we'll be taking them in Twitch, and just like and subscribe and all that. And always, we're brought to you by everyone on Patreon and Twitch. You guys help us do the show. Thank you. And again, if you're one of the people that did put some money in the GoFundMe, big love and thank you for that. So, Mr. LOV, are you
Yes,
ready? Are you ready?
let's do this. Yeah. I guess before we get on, should we? I should do a couple of shout outs. I've already mentioned Johnny from Bobo giving us all of the back end results there. We've got a few events from. We're going to see Australia, New Zealand, and Poland coming up. So, fella from Poland,
Yes.
his name is Slav. He sent us a very nice email through the Honest Wargamer email. And he gave us results from the event there, and it seems the Polish scene is picking up there. So big love to the Polish guys. It's our second recorded event for Poland. So let's. I'd love to see more European events. Just I'll put that out there. We've got Sweden, we've got Norway and the Scandinavians, but we don't see much from France, Germany, obviously Poland as well. So any people listening from the European continent before the Brexit, while they can still actually get in touch with us, let's get some results from there. Yeah.
LLV, they'll always be able to get in touch with you. You're in Canada. Then they'll be able to they just won't be able to get in touch with me, as we'll be locked in. Big shout out to Elf Bro the chat. Chuckabit TV, I see you there, Sunise. Sunise says, say what you like about FEC, but it is bringing in new players. Someone in a group yesterday asked me what Grand Alliance that Gristlegore was in. Big love to all of our channel mods on Twitch as well. Tomb King, Tristan, Sunise. I can see you all there in the chat. You guys are great. Also, hi Papa Bean, and everyone just using the Twitch chats. Quick thing: if you're watching or you're new, and you're not quite sure. So what LV has done is since the start of Age of Sigmar 2, so once the Soul Wars box came out, basically, he's been tracking all of the competitive stats for every tournament we can get our hands on, which is pretty much most of them. But like he said, we would like, if there have been some in France, we'd like the stats. Greece, I know you boys are out there. Big love to you. Mexico, I know you guys are out there as well. But yeah, Germany, anywhere you are in the world, get in touch with us because we'd like to add it because the better the stats, the more informed decisions we can make for buying things, but also to try and beat people at tournaments, right?
Yeah, and we'll see some examples of that as well. Some of the underdogs punching above their weight coming up when we look at Bobo. But yeah, just continuing that. Someone else that got in touch with us was Michael Thompson from the down under Australia. They had a battle of the northern realms, and he emailed that in also. So yeah, we're actually getting it's evolving a little bit. It used to be me just chasing people around, hounding them for numbers. Now people are proffering these numbers up freely, which is fantastic. Keep doing that, guys.
Sweet.
Saves me a lot of work.
So that gets us. And they're all hosted every week on thehonestwargamer.com. So just click that, click the stats tab, and you can check it out there. Easy as pie, and you can read along with what's happened so far.
Yes.
So there were some events this weekend. Captain Andrew Crimson Field GT Virginia was this weekend. And then also Farkanor says we just had an ITC event in Thunder Bay. I'll get hold of the TO and some stats, but we'll talk about that in a bit. But just message the page or email us at thehonestwargamer@gmail.com.
Yeah, and we can do it retrospectively as well. We can always go back and add numbers in. So it doesn't matter where, as long as it happened in this period we're calling AOS 2.2, which is since the December FAQ, then we'll get it in here.
I demand a recount. That's what I demand. These stats are too high. That's what I demand. Right.
That's what the issue is, isn't it? Flesh eaters are not actually this bad. It's just because we don't have all the stats, obviously.
Right, look, let's get into it. AOS Stats, 28th of May. I'm very excited by this. So the first table you'll see if you go onto the website, again, it's just thehonestwargamer.com / so wait, hold on, I'll do it properly. HTTPS. No, not really. Just go on there and just click it. It's the most recent date. So we've got all the logs since 2.2, which is the events since Christmas, basically, since we had the FAQ where Iron Jaws got a little bit of a nerf, and the long-awaited points hike on Hags from Daughters of Cain did not occur. Up until that point, Daughters of Cain, Elisa and Nagash. Elisa and Nagash should have been the most popular force, but kind of like swinging in between them and Stormcast. And then what we had happen then is so they were the most popular, with Daughters of Cain being just out and out smashers, with Legion and Nagash doing quite well. Then going into this kind of half of the season, that's right, that's what I'm calling it. We've still seen Legions and Nagash, and we had a kind of dark pick happening, didn't we, LOV, for the first few months?
Yeah, with the host of Slanesh was popping up, taking some events, and yeah, it was interesting because they didn't even have a battle town at the time.
Exactly. Yeah, they were already doing really well, and when we get to their match win percentage, you'll see that they're big there. But then we saw some interesting things. Beasts of Chaos won a couple of events which they haven't really repeated.
Beasts of Chaos is a list, though. We should mention that when we see Beasts of Chaos popping up doing well at these events, it is a list, not so much of a faction itself, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's not to say that they can't, but I think that's fair. Yeah, that's a good point. And then we got to D-Day, as it was known in F-Day. We got to the release of we saw the Gits release as well, but then we saw Flesh Eater Courts and Skaven, and then we saw what can only be described up until that. If you look, so it's around the Anzac Cup, is where you're looking. And then you get into Australian AOS Heat 1. I think that's the right sort of time.
I think Flesh Eaters actually was released a little bit before that. Maybe even quite aptly at the because it was at the Sheffield Slaughter that we first saw them, right?
Yes,
and then AOS GT Heat 1. And then the fall of the old world, which is quite interesting that Flesh Eaters popped up around the fall of the old world. Yeah, and then since then they took over the scene basically every single week. They had at least
we had a dark time. We had a dark time in April.
Yeah.
We had a dark time in April where that's all that would win.
April had 5 back to back. And one thing to mention is I think at every event up until our last stat show, which was at the beginning of May, Flesh Eaters had actually 5-0'd every event. They might not have podium because of the way scorings happen at tournaments. Sometimes people can win more games but don't place as high because of soft scores and things like painting and stuff. But every event up until the 4th of May, Flesh Eaters had 5-0'd. Every event.
However, we had a nice fair mix up until this point. So don't be all doom and gloom. I don't think it's like overly horrific. I mean, it's pretty horrific, but like like, yeah, mi casa su casa. Like, it's going to be fine. I don't speak French, so I don't know what that thing I just said meant. But it was interesting. But we haven't had some results recently. So we had the hero phase where you saw Gits go win an event, which was great. You had some Skaven as well. Now Skaven are also up there. They're constantly placing. They're doing a lot of 5-0s. They're doing really well. Skaven, I think, as an analyst, are no matter what the stats say, are the strongest book in the game. ATM.
Mm.
But when you look at stats and you go, well, actually, they haven't got as many podiums as this army or that army. I think you'll see that that'll change up going forward. But we're only 4 weeks away from 4 or 5 weeks away from the General's Handbook, as far as I understand it. We will be doing an AOS 2 rap party. We'll be me and LLV will be organising an award ceremony for the top armies in the game. That'll be fun, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But so recently, we got into some new. So Bobo. So let's look at the events that we haven't looked at so far. Bobo, Daughters of Cain came first, Skaven second. Skaven, I think, also went 5-0, and Gloomspite Gits came in a podium as well with another 5-0. But I think maybe the world's first 5-0.
We did have the Gloomspites at the hero phase go 5-0,
Right.
but hero phase was only a 21-man event, whereas now we're close to a 200-man event. So,
However,
yeah,
a tough 20-man event is the same as a tough 200-man event, realistically.
yeah, you still got to play five, and you could even argue it could even be tougher, right? If you've got 20 of the best people, you're going to pay five murderers rather than maybe one or two murderers. So, but yeah, big congrats to Richie there for taking the Gits. We did a pre-Bobo show. We had some guests on, and we all kind of made our predictions. And I don't think anybody picked Gloomspite Gits to podium there.
No, my prediction went wayside as well. So you're right.
Yeah,
But Daughters of
I
Cain.
did pick Daughters of Cain, so just yeah, the stats did work. Unfortunately, I picked Ben Sava over Jack Armstrong, but I think the faction choice still stands. So I'll just get that out there.
I used the stats. I made my guess. And the stats were correct. Fair one. We saw Daughters of Cain have popped up again recently. I say Daughters of Cain ever since Christmas. They were the bad guys of the 6 months before Christmas, and then the 6 months after they dropped off. And we actually saw that really interestingly, based on how much we've seen them being used. They were used a lot less over that period of time. So it just they fell out of favor, and I don't think it's because that there was anything out there that was countering them. I just think people wanted to move on from the face roll army, and then they were like, oh shit, I probably should try and win some events. So they picked the face roll army up again and started to roll out with some events. That's not me being unfair. If you look at like actual like sports stats analysis, anything that sits in the win rate percentage that Daughters of Cain is, does show you that they are bananas good. They are too good. And same with Skaven and Flesh Courts, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think the rise of some of these more powerful battle tomes kind of kicked people into gear with the Daughters of Cain again, but it's odd. I don't hear as many complaints about, even today. I don't hear that much complaining about Daughters. It's always Skaven and Feck, right? So yeah, we will. They're definitely very, very good, and they definitely, if you're looking at balance, they're definitely on the high end of that scale. So it will be interesting, as we said, with the General's Handbook coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. And currently, so we got a war. So join us for the next 3 to 4 weeks of the stat show for this. It's for AOS 2 just AOS 2, because when the new General's Handbook come out, we'll be into like 2.5. Because I don't think it'll be a new edition of the game. But there is a war. We haven't got there yet on the tables. There is a war for top place between Daughters of Cain and Flesh Eater Courts, for which is going to be the most successful faction. So join along with that. And what's really interesting, if you're going to any events over the next 3-4 weeks, you guys could be the people that decide who sits on top, right? Because it's been a meteoric rise for Flesh Eater Courts. But we'll get to those stats in a bit. Next up, a Battle of Northern Realms, 22 players. We saw Hedonites of Slanesh pick up a podium, Daughters of Cain in second, and then Nighthaunt, good job, in third place. I love it when I see Nighthaunt pop up.
Yeah, they kind of pop up now and again, and I think that's just the army itself is almost a bit swingy, and that's almost reflected in the stats. Like if someone takes a Nighthawk army, plays them well, and gets those nines or tens on the dice roll, they're going to win games, and I think we see.
Was
And
that
then
Joel? Was
every
that
now and
Joel
again,
again?
I don't have the person's name to hand,
Yeah,
but
it
it was
was. It was
not.
Joel.
It was Joe. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
excellent. Yeah, congrats. So that
That's
was a 4-1.
that's the
The
second
Daughters
time
of
he's done
Yeah,
really well with Nighthawk, and one of the few people in the world doing it.
I think he 5-0 the first time though, right? So
Mm.
this is a 4-1. Daughters of Cain 4-1, and Head Knight's actually 5-0, which I think was maybe their third time of doing so. So the dark the Dark Prince, our dark horse, is still winning events here and there.
Yeah, I don't think it identifies as a horse, but I'm not sure. But yeah, smashing work there, especially for He Knights doing so well. So big shout out to the winner of that. Notorious GT in New Zealand, attended by a bevy of gorgeous men and women. Just honestly, that is the place to go. I don't think I've ever seen such a good-looking event. That's what I think. Just, just,
Yeah,
just pretty
I
people all
may.
over the place.
Yeah, I did make a comment. I think the Age of Sigmar. When you look at nerd hobbies, and Age of Sigmar, it seems has a good potential of very good looking people, no matter where you
That
go.
was,
As
that
far as
was a weird fucking tweet you did. That was a weird tweet. You were like, "There's loads of hot men here. Women, you should play what like."
I'm just trying to get the stats up, right? Like we need more female representation, and
Oh,
if
that's
that's what it
fucking
takes,
sweet of you. That's
if
sweet.
it takes
Okay.
if it takes rolling out the big guns, we bring in AOS shots down to every event just to get the ladies there. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean that's why I hire like I mainly have Nathan on the show for the gay bear vote. Make sure they're in and represented equally. Right. So and then Speckles just for people who are asexual. Now let's
There
move
you go.
on.
Yeah.
Right. I just want to go do a quick fallback. Heat Knights International was actually run by Joel at the
Right.
Battle of Northern Realm. So smashing it there, and then it was Tim McD who took it out with Nighthaunt. So well done, you. Right, Notorious GT was taken out by Legions and Nagash. Look, they're still
Yeah.
there. They're still doing the work, right?
Yeah, they're the only 5-0 at this event. So Flesh Eater, this was the first. This block was the first week that we saw Flesh Eaters didn't actually 5-0 an event, which is good. People are managing to get that one win against them. It seems so. Legion's 5-0, then Flesh Eaters, and Idenef are still up there. I do have to mention Notorious GT looking through the results, and you can find the full results on Tabletop TO. They have it all broken down. If someone goes on there and looks at 10th place, there is an Iron Jaws army that 4-1. Now I don't know
What?
what the list. Yes,
What
it
at
happened
Notorious GT?
at the Notorious GT. Iron Jaws
Uh,
went 4-1 at an event,
I
and they
think
came 10th.
I really, really hope that that guy had got two seats on the plane back, one for him and one for his massive balls that he would have had to
Yeah,
do to take Iron Jaws with him.
10 to 4-1. I
And to
think
4-1. What a
that's
legend.
and we're talking. It's not like he had a soft field. It was full of flesh eaters, full of daughters. It had all the usual suspects in there. So yeah, big congrats to that guy.
We also just added a chat. Thanks, Relian, over from America. There was Bruce City Brawl last week with 60 players, but we'll get that up at some point, I'm sure. First was Flesh Eater Court, second Flesh Eater Courts, and Daughters of Cain third, and the fourth was Nighthaunt, run by Relian himself. So two more Flesh Eater Courts to add to the pile at some point. But
Oh,
yeah, I know. But then the Daughters of Cain in there as well, just to keep that race alive for the future, just to keep that adequate wargamer. Thanks for subscribing for 15 months.
yeah.
Uh,
So if anyone has those Bruce City Brawl results, I did see some pictures on Twitter. I just getting back, I didn't have time to go hounding them down for results. So if someone can send those to us, we'll get it in retrospectively and make sure it's represented.
Yeah, that's fine. Right, so then so big shout out to the New Zealand guys. Looked like a great event as well, and those guys are just wicked. So just you can go listen to, they've got podcasts. You go listen to that. Just you'll hear loads. Then you got
Yeah.
then in Poland, our second
Yes.
Polish event, the Pomeranian Fork.
Why is that? I don't know.
Can we
Great
just
name,
can we
though.
just talk about some of the naming conventions for Age of Sigmar events? Iron Realms, Broadside Brash, West Coast GT, GothCon, Bris Vegas, and then you've got the Pomeranian Fork over in Poland with 14 players. But that does, as long as they all didn't play the same people, that's fine. Daughters of Cain in
Yeah.
first. Legions of the Gash in second, Daughters of Cain third. So Daughters of Cain still just showing their metal there, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it was a small event, but looking at the armies on show for that event, it was very they were very good. And as we said, we got a nice email from Slav over from Poland, kind of explaining the scene, and there's a very small hardcore group of players for AOS. They had a fallout when the old world exploded, it seemed. But yeah, they're building the scene out there, so that's always really encouraging to hear about these new communities. Much like the guys in Greece, right? It might not be a big scene.
Go on.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
might
but
not be a big scene, but very, very good players, it seems. So
literally, if the entire Age of Sigmar community consisted of only the people from Greece, it would be the best community in the world. Like
yeah,
they're unreal. So I hope the Polish is the same. Everyone's awesome, right? Like that's why we're all in the chat together. There's like 5 to 10 countries represented in the chat right now.
yeah,
I have been poked in the chat. There's a member of a boy band who want me to talk about something. Idna Deepkin coming in third place, not with eel spam at the Notorious GT. A
oh,
bunch of thralls. So that's a cool list. I'm almost certain we're going to get that list put up on the AOS Wargame website and then have it written out how to use it. Otherwise, why would be the point in poking me in the chat about it, right?
exactly, yeah.
That would seem outlandish just to be claiming that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. The stats know no borders. There may be walls and borders going up in real life, but the stats the stats overextend those. So yeah, it's great to see the community all coming together from all over the world.
Right, so we
Big
have
love.
a big love, yeah, and there's an American event in there as well, so we will get that added. So it's just a fucking bevy, and just look how alive our game is. Like you just need only look at that table. LOV again, thank you for always doing this, but that table itself for me is just like it's just this big representation of just like all these different people playing across the globe, and we're all connected. So I just think that's wicked. I know that's a bit egalitarian, but like I'm just all about that. That's probably the wrong word as well. Right, but the next up we have is a in-depth Bobo stats analysis. We'll skip that for a
Yeah.
minute. We'll do that at the end.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
because I actually think it'll be easier to break it down afterwards after we've done the kind of global stats. So people, if they don't want the in-depth, they can move on, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Sounds good.
so the AOS
On
2.2.
to the winner's circle then.
Oh yeah, have I missed that? I don't think I've missed it. Yeah, the winner's circle. Sorry, I have missed it. So yes, the winner's circle. Get yourself in here. It's Smorgan in the chat. Hi, baby. Has anyone got a face? Can you do Smorgan face? LOV. Do you know what Smorgan face is?
I'm doing it right now. It's just hard to. It's hard to project that over the mic. So yeah,
Right,
happening.
the winner's circle. So this is where we track everything that's happened since Age of Sigmar started and how the factions are doing, and then also since 2.2. So it combined since the release of Age of Sigmar, Daughters of Cain have taken away 14 first places, 10 second places, and 12 third places. So 36 in total. With Flesh Eater Courts on their meteoric rise to victory, 12 first places, 8 second places, and 3 third places. And they have been done as you can flip over. And if you look into AOS 2.2, the chart to the right, you'll actually see that they got 10 of those 12 first places in the past 6 months. Well, not even that, the past 5 months.
Yeah, basically since that book, with the exception of Bill Sousa getting in a win before the book came out, all those 10 were after 9 of those 10 were after the new book came out.
Yeah, Yeah, just yes. Obviously, there's Ghoul King Bill, who doesn't need to even use the new book. Uh, I mean, that's amazing, right? But Daughters of Cain are still placed on top. They are still absolutely, and with the resurgence in popularity as well. There's the AOS Six Nations, which will be doing the coverage from the weekend, and as you've seen, there's Daughters of Cain's list in every army, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, in every team. Um, so they're just so good. And then Legions and Nagash, overall, they've got 9 wins. So 9 first places, 14 second places, and 18 third places. So 41. So they've got the most podiums, but they are far and away the most popular faction. When we get down to
Yeah.
the stats, they are so, and they have been since the beginning, basically, right?
Yeah, since AOS 2, it was always a toss up between Legions of Nagash and Stormcast, who was the most popular. And we're talking about how many of those factions would turn up to an event on average.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's just, and Stormcast Eternals, the other, was the second runner and kind of sometimes the most popular, but 4 first places overall in total since the start of the game. So they're up there, but that both Legions and Stormcast with those big podiums, really buoyed up by the fact that there was lots of people trying to get up there. Whereas Daughters of Cain have always been a pretty underrepresented, not underrepresented, like they've been in what I would say the middle pack of representation, right? With the kind of 4 to 5%, but they got more
Yeah,
popular as they kept winning more, right?
yeah. And I think there was what you'd call a hobby lag on Daughters as well. It's not an easy army just to slap together. So when people realized it was good, there might have been a little bit of a production thing going on. And then, as we said, it kind of dropped off after the FAQ with some players trying new things. And yeah, it's been, I wouldn't say back, it's always been there, but more people have started picking it up and playing it at events again, which has added to their resurgence as far as wins are concerned. So we see them climbing up the table a little bit in AOS 2.2. There's only a few weeks left. Can they hit a few more first places to take over Flesh Eaters and cement themselves at the top of AOS 2.1 and AOS 2.2? It remains to be seen, I guess.
It does. Yeah. It's quite exciting now. They're clearing away the dominant forces. So really exciting to see that. And then obviously when we get to reset this table, we've never done a table reset before, so it's gonna be exciting, right? So then looking at just 2.2 Flesh Eater Courts. So this is everything since Christmas, basically. The table you see above, they are the champions up where with Daughters of Cain, with a lot of recent inclusions, as you've seen, 2 podiums pumping them up. Legions of Nagash, Skaven, and Heed Knights, Idneth as well. Idneth are that wicked counter pick, in my opinion. I find the Eels a little bit offensive in their utility, but actually looking at all the other armies, I wouldn't mind the Eels being a little bit. I wouldn't mind the Eels being a bit more expensive, but they're a nice counter pick, especially their speed and their off-board control against things like Skaven. That's really powerful as a mechanic. It's just total commitment being in every single mission pack means that sometimes they're going to get the tough draw. Yeah, Eels in total commitment against Skaven is the worst, I reckon.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ideth have just been doing okay. So I think that's cool. The Beast of Chaos there is an aberrant stat. That's a one list, one man wonder.
Yeah.
And then Disciples of Zinch there, Blades of Corn, Gloomspite, Seraphon, they've all got ones. Fireslayers one. Fireslayers recently over in Australia as well, by a lovely man. Nighthorn and Free Peoples with a podium, which is just ludicrous. Should never have happened. And if anyone's interested, before the new Sylvaneth books come out, which hasn't actually come out, but we've all seen it, so and there's a review on the Honest Wargamer if you want to watch it. They actually have only ever got a second place and a third place, and then actually looking at Sylvaneth overall since the beginning of the game, they've only ever taken out 2 events.
hmm
They've come second twice and third 6 times.
Based on your memory, do you think your photographic memory? It seems. Do you think that will change going forward?
So the, I think not. But like
Mm.
overall, like so a quick snapshot. I think the way that army worked previously, but not particularly well, as we could see there by only the 2 first place podiums. Although which is great, and anyone who got those, like, well deserved and well fought for. Like, I think that's excellent. I think, the capacity to go first meant that they could control the board and put trees down, which really was their movement. However, now that maybe you can't go first, you can't use your movement. And in a world where Enlightened can move a set 27 inches, you can have Ghoul Kings on Terrorgeist run and charge, you can have Skitter leaping rats and units whipping through gnaw holes, and then you can have deep striking eels and Stormcast. I think the movement part of the game is so broad now, especially with the release from Forbidden Power. So even some of the armies that aren't particularly strong, and I include Legion Asgore in there as well, can be buoyed up a lot by the inclusion of some of those movement utility spells. I actually think Sylvaneth are in an even tougher place because of the release of Forbidden
Hmm.
Power. But that's just my snapshot. And as always, if you follow the channel, our brand new motto is "fuck 'em." So if you don't agree with me and you think that you can do better and you can win tournaments with them, I'll be the first to give you a round of applause and call myself a dick. So get out there and start winning them with the trees if you think it's possible.
Yeah,
Not to put fire on it, like douse anyone's fire.
yeah, fair assessment.
Okay. Elf Bro in the chat says challenge accepted. He says fuck you,
Yeah,
which I think is cool. Ragnar says Andrew won Fire Slayers at Bris Vegas, got best opponent at BOTNR. Great guy and a heap of fun playing against him. I got the opportunity to meet him at CanCon actually. Them and all the Brisbane guys and girls are just
yeah,
fucking fabulous. It's my dream to go out there soon. So I'm gonna
yeah.
try and do that.
The Battle of the Northern Realms, the Andrew, did you say his name was? Who
Yeah.
plays Fire Slayers? Yeah, he actually 4-1 at that event. I forget his final placing, but it was in the top 10, and he did go 4-1. So yeah, he's consistently doing well with those Slayers.
Yeah, he's just a badass. He's a cool dude. They're all cool dudes. Mick, a whole bunch of guys. Right, so AOS 2.2 overall breakdown. So this is
Yes.
so if you guys have never looked at this table before, again, go give it a shout. The stat that I always find interesting: 37 events logged since November or December.
Yep.
Nearly
Since
10,
December.
yeah, nearly 10,000 matches. So it's a nice spread, and it's the meta percentage. That's the one that I really like. Is the meta percentage. So
Yeah.
and this table is sorted by, what is the table sorted by? Is it by 5 pluses?
Yeah, this one's sorted by 5+, 4+, and then match win percentage. So it's if you sorted by match win percentage, obviously it's going to be slightly different, but we'll see that on the next comparison tables. But yeah, sorted by 5 wins, we've got Flesh Eater Cots riding high at the top. And you'll see it's usually kind of indicative of match win. When something's doing a lot of obviously 5 wins, you're going to have a higher match win percentage. But then you've got other instances where it doesn't quite tie in. So all the numbers are here. It is quite a big lot of numbers to digest, but the big ones that people seeing this for the first time, as you said, meta percentage is important, I feel. And your match win percentage is also quite interesting as well.
Yeah, I think meta percentage for me is the one that's really telling because it tells me what sort of things I'm going to have to um,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to face realistically.
Yeah, and it's a hard stat as well. There's no arguments about meta percentage, regarding scenario or player or if the moon was out when that army won that tournament. It is just what it is.
This is actually Age of Sigmar. So if you do grow the most fantastic mustache, you are allowed rerolls. That's
Yeah.
actually been a core rule since the beginning of the game. Anyway, so the most popular faction still Legions of Nagash, but they've dropped down like nearly 2%
Yes.
compared to where they were 5 months ago. They were rocking
Yeah.
like nearly 12-13%, with Stormcast still being almost break. Oh no, Stormcast a little bit more popular, 10.6.
Yeah,
Stormcast.
Stormcast have, both of those factions traditionally were hovering closer to the 12-13%, but they've both seen a little bit of drop off over these last, I'd say, 3 or 4 months.
That's really interesting. Yeah, but I think the Legions of Nagash one is specifically because those death players are moving into FEC.
Yes.
That would be my opinion. Whereas Stormcast, I think, they still they're one of the oldest books in this edition, but also they're having a tough time winning tournaments realistically, as we can see there. Actually, Stormcast win percentage is 46%. Now, I would actually argue that we talked about this before, right, LLV? So if you're talking stats and sports, and just you're one of those people, we want all of the armies to be somewhere between 45 and 55% as win rates,
Yeah,
right? That's it. Like
yeah,
that's our
for
Goldilocks.
balance then.
Yeah, for balance purposes, which I know before anyone like throws a coffee cup at a wall or kicks a bike, or shaves their hair off. Balance is a little bit of like a maybe a myth in this game, mainly because we don't want to talk about the fact that maybe they could do it, but they can't be asked. But we'll ignore it. We'll call it a myth. But it would be nice to have some sort of like degree between 45 and 55%. Anything below that or above that probably is having some sort of problems. But the Stormcast stat at 45, I actually think they're a really solid book with loads of good picks, but loads of new players pick them up. So that
Hmm.
generally means that they tend to not win as many games because they're just putting like maybe hobby armies down or whatever it is. And the stats do include people who are just there to get drunk, hobby armies, a bunch of other stuff. So sometimes a little interpretation is needed, right?
Yeah, yeah. But on a counter to that, that is where um, when you start getting up to 9,000, 10,000 matches, the idea is the more data you have, and this is why it's important for people to keep sending us this stuff. The more data we have, what will happen is the results will normalize. So after a while, the aberrant stats, especially on largely played factions like Stormcast, the aberrations will kind of all meld into one, and you'll get a more true idea of where something sits. Which is why when you see some factions that seem to be doing inordinately well, like Phoenix Temple, when you actually look at it, it's only been used 3 times. So that would be what we'd call an aberrant stat. But
Yeah,
when we're looking at the Flesh Eaters, Legions of Nagat, all these ones at the top, with even 50 plus uses, or even 20 plus uses, to be honest, you can start to draw a little more solid conclusions on how they're actually performing in the wider game.
yeah, absolutely. It might be cool to put a line in on Aberrant Stats, like a color code or something, but we'll get there.
Yep.
It's going to be cool. Big shout out to Canhammer TV. He wants LV to pop over to the Capital City Bloodbath, which is on
Pop
Small Game
over,
Teams.
yeah.
Pop
It's
over.
only what I could drive there in about 3 days. I'll
Oh
just
wow.
pop over. Yeah,
Ca- ca-
only 3 days drive.
Is Canada's roads as bad as the English roads? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, basically.
Retisanti, thank you so much for subscribing 4 months in a row. He says, "Hey!" Also, obviously, Scourge Privateer is smashing it there on the stats, talking about aberrant stats there. Right. Meta percentages and win rates. So we can look at the metas, and now we know that anything below 45 or above 55, we're going to start talking about Silly Town. Right? So we'll go start at the top. 6.1% of the meta, Flesh Eater Court. So pretty popular.
Yeah,
They've got the
it's grown.
it's
It was probably around. It was sub 1% before the book came out, so it's seen quite a uptick.
Yeah, absolutely. But their match win percentage 63%. So they
Yeah,
are 8% above our Goldilocks chain
yeah.
there. So they are doing phenomenally well.
And
Go on.
I always have to throw this caveat in that 63% does include those 2 or 3 months before they got a new book. So if you're looking at pure new book stats, it's actually hovering around 71, 72% match win. Yeah.
So
So
what?
this is a bit of fake news. Yeah,
So so
we're understating.
so nearly 17% better than our Goldilocks chain, right? I'm going to put that.
Yeah,
I'm going to put that into a graph. I think I'm going to try and work out how to do it. Right, Legions of Nagash, 10% of the meta. So one of the most popular factions you'll play, and obviously, as people will point out, that really does encompass like 2 or 3 different armies in both Legion, Sacrament, Legion things. But really, it's the same models, just with
yeah,
different. So they're almost like temples that you'll see in Daughters of Cain, or the
Yes.
glaives that you see in Sylvaneth.
Yeah.
So
When
everyone,
Legions came out, the formatting of books was slightly different. They hadn't quite got on this whole temple slash stormcast chamber template that they're using now,
mm.
but it's basically the same thing, right? When you break it down. So basically, for our purposes, the faction is listed as Legions of Nagash, and that's what we report on. So it does include Legions of Night and Legions of Sacrament, so on and so forth.
And will include Legions of Grief as well, from the new book. Skaven then 5.3% of the meta, so a little less. Like, they float around that kind of flesh eater courts popularity. And then, so half as popular as you're going to see Death Armies, 59%. So
Yes.
they're only a little bit above our Goldilocks chain, 5%, but that is a lot, really, in maths terms. That's what I
Yeah.
go on.
They've been creeping up as well, Rob. They if you went back through all these
Would
stats,
you say they've been tunneling up?
they've been tunneling up. Yeah, the rats have been on the
Excellent.
rise because when their new book came out, they were kind of closer to like the 50%, and I think you hit the nail on the head at the time. You said, once people actually start playing with this army properly instead of just using the models they have, it'll start to creep up, and that's what we've actually seen. Both in like event placings and win percentages.
Yeah. So Chucklebuty's got a great question in the chat. So really, top six are overpowered, for want of a better word. And from Stormcast downwards, we're all good and happy. So if there's big points hikes for the six sections, would it balance it out as much can be expected? The other thing to think there, Chuckles, is anything that sits below 45%, we're unhappy with, because you don't want a poor faction to be running around, at the 30-40% mark, because there's as much as there's issues with strength, there's also issues with weakness.
Yeah, it needs to be balanced. And let's not, we're not calling for, well, me personally, I don't know about you, but I don't want massive nerfs on these, these overperformers.
Mm.
We don't want them to fall below the 45% post General's Handbook, let's say, right? They still need to be in that realm of possibilities. So let's hope that people doing the balancing are actually tweaking rather than hitting it with a sledgehammer, so to speak.
Yes, and also Danhammer CG puts the other top six are only overpowered so long as the rest are lower level. I don't agree with bringing everything up. I don't agree with bringing everything up globally, because what you'll end up doing is causing loads of issues that you weren't expecting.
Yeah.
So it's better to identify why they're doing well. Just identify it. Like, look, nerf's also like a really negative term. Like, and if we have this
Yeah.
conversation as a community, the concept that stuff's just a little bit too good is fine. Like, I'm almost certain if you said to every single player, "Would you like to have a fair game that you had to win by being smart?" Yeah, that's not every player. 80%, I
Not
reckon.
everybody.
I reckon
Yeah.
80% to go, yeah, that sounds about right. What I'd like to do. The other
Yeah.
20% are like, nah, mate, I want to get drunk and I want to fuck
Yeah.
people up, and like, which is fine, right? But that's a different conversation. Like, this is just
Yeah.
reporting what's happening, right?
This is what's going on, yeah. But I think if we're talking words, I think adjustment would be a better word than nerf. They need adjusting, whether it's adjusting to be better or adjusting to be slightly worse. And as you said, identifying what it is within each of these factions that's giving it these aberrant stats is what needs adjusting, rather than just saying flesh eater courts are broken. Let's times all their points by 20. That's a knee-jerk reaction. So
Yeah. I agree. So then Daughters of Cain, 5.1%. So they sit around that mark.
yeah,
64%. So they're still in the silly category,
they
of
are. Yeah,
of
although it's
strong.
gone down. Yeah, they used to be back in AOS 2.1. Their highest recorded match win percentage, I want to say, was
Was it
it was close
78?
to seven. It was like 76, 77, something like that. So it was very, very high. Yeah, it was close to 80%. Yeah.
It was bananas. And they have just been dropping. So that gives you some indication of just how phenomenally good they are, and
Yeah.
why we were all very surprised that Games Workshop didn't address the issue in the winter FAQ.
Right. Yeah.
which is why you're still seeing them podium now to a huge degree. Then you got Heat
Yeah.
Knights of Sinesh, 2.3%, so half as popular of Daughters of Cain, who are half as popular Legions of Nagash or Stormcast, to give you some example of how often you're going to see them. But they are on a lovely little 6%, 60% win rate, so they are still really good.
Yes. Yeah. So we've seen a little uptick since the new book, not a huge amount. It's kind of a little too early to draw conclusions, but yeah, they're still doing very well. And seeing them play and looking at the new book, I think, yeah, they've got a 60% match win percentage, but in comparison, let's say it this way, in comparison to Flesh Eaters and Skaven, I think they seem okay. They can do some broken stuff, but it's not totally off the charts, in my opinion. So
Yeah, I'd say I want to see him a little bit more. I want to see him a little bit
yeah,
more. I want to see him used on the tabletop. I think they're solid. The activation wars, they've got a strong leg in there. Their summoning is off the chart, and really, it's brand new. It's got a little bit more tact to it than, let's say, the Flesh Eater Courts or Skaven books. So
right, yeah.
um,
So
you,
maybe that's what I'm. I almost like when armies are like that though, and daughters are kind of that way in a degree, in that they're very good as a base army, but to really take them to the next level, you actually need a solid pilot behind it, and maybe Slanesh are similar in that way.
Yeah, so not to derail us too much, but Hector of Troy's got a point in the chat. A poor player with a strong army won't beat a strong player with a poor army, in my opinion. Uh,
Disagree.
I would also, yes, I would also disagree. I would say that I'm a decent player who plays a pretty average army. And often or not, I've had some pretty tight games recently, and I've always come up against some of the kind of backbreaking armies, either Daughters of Cain or Flesh Eater Courts, which have been my downfall. And I feel often I've technically won those games, but I just couldn't trade well enough with the units at my disposal.
Hmm.
And sometimes that just is the case. Now that's my anecdotal experience trying to give uh, not trying to set the rule. I'm not trying to use my anecdotal experience to set the rule, but a good, healthy conversation to have is that people all around the world were winning with Flesh Eater Courts from the first day, having not every, picking the army up a week or so before. So I don't agree with that either. So I think me and see you later, Hooker Pin. I think both me and LOV, without labouring the point too much, says that skill is very important, but a strong army will always do well, especially if it's in this stupid tier, which some of these armies are in the stupid tier, right?
Yeah, yeah, and dice are always going to play a factor as well. So you roll, you will get the odd occasion when a Darkling Coven player goes 4-1 in an event, as
Yeah.
we'll see coming up. But that's almost like yourself with Legions and Asgore, right? That's like a dedication to that army. You're putting so much work in, and sometimes the dice will fall your way, and sometimes they won't. But a lot of the times you come up against a Skaven or Flesh Eater Courts, you're going to be on the wrong side of that result, regardless what you do, unfortunately. So.
Yes. And that's why the stats are great for two reasons. One, they give us some sort of baseline, and then also number two, like if you smash something, like the number one Darkling Covers player in the world, who's currently in the chat, who at Bobo spoilers, I'm sure it's not a spoiler by now, went 4-1, which is ludicrous. Like that smashed that into a degree that is just a stat smashing to a degree that's unbelievable. And it's just silly. And again, when we talked about the Iron Jaws posting a 4-1 result earlier, the fact that he has to walk home with just kind of the weight of an entire like faction on his back because he's literally carrying them is just fucking mega. And Relian in the chat saying he was really happy with his Nighthaunt result this weekend. Bruce
Yeah.
City, he went 4-1, I think. I'm happy with Nighthaunt lower tier in his opinion. Bruce City beat Skaven, beat Daughters of Cain, 1 point from beating FEC. So like he really went up against the tough matchups. But more than often than not, the army it's the army and pilot, but at a certain point the army takes over because the pilot can only do so much, right?
Yeah. We just a quick final point on that. We actually had an Oxford professor do the numbers on it, and I think he came out to pilot added the pilot influence was roughly about 30%.
Only an
So
Oxford professor. Could we not get
only an
MIT?
Oxford
Could we not
professor.
get MIT?
No, no. He wasn't a professor of Warhammer, though, which is very important. He was
What?
just a statistics professor, so you have to kind of take his word with a pinch of salt.
So a statistics professor from Oxford University.
Yes.
Man, we could have done like Caltech, the University of Dubai. Okay, I'll take that. Actually, Prof T is a great dude,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm a massive fan, and I do appreciate that. I don't think that's a stat we've ever released before, is it? Because
We've had it in conversations.
we've been sensitive about telling people that, but
Yeah, we just get it's towards the end of the edition now, right? We can just get it
yeah,
all
don't
out.
worry about
But
it. Yeah, so you only have 30% of the impact on your game. That's not a worry.
that's on average. That's the
Yeah,
average player. But
that's the
yeah,
average. Right.
yeah,
So next up, Idneth Deepkin, 5% representation, and they have been rocking that 60% win rate. So yeah, like I think Idneth are one of those really interesting armies that people get into them because they see their utility.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Wicked choice. So they, I think that's fine, but they are 5% above those stats, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and uh, that might be to do with build, right? That's something we can't see here, like how many of those 5+ and 4+ wins are eel builds. As we just heard, there was a non-eel build that just went 4-1 in New Zealand, which
Mm.
is fantastic. But maybe that build is a little more balanced. So that's what we was talking about identifying where these issues lie, and kind of tweaking rather than breaking things.
Yeah, when the points, like we said, I think what's going to be fun is doing our wrap up show, and I think that's going to be a big show, right? We'll do like predictions for the future, and then like what will go up and what will go down, and then obviously when, oh my god, I'm so excited about the Switch, just because we're informed so well by the stats, it's going to be fun. Maggotkin, no, Stormcast we've done, no, we haven't done.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've done 45% win rate, 10% of the meta. Maggotkin and Nurgle, 5%. So that's really interesting because we don't tend to talk about Maggotkin much. I was having a chat about them yesterday. We don't have that chat loads, but they are
no,
they are fairly well represented, but they don't do great.
yeah,
47%, but it's
it's in balance though. I think they're I think along with Stormcast, they might be at the low end of that balance, but I think they are a balanced faction, right? They're not doing anything. They're good at what they do, but they're not doing anything totally game breaking. They give tough games, but at least you feel like you're always in it. So when you start looking at factions like Maggot King, like Stormcast, um, like some of these others here, I think that's where the game wants to be, as far as balance is concerned.
yeah. Yeah. I think they're in a good spot as a faction themselves, but really
Yeah.
overshadowed by some of the other factions. And they've got some utility as well. I think Disciples of Zinch, the army I think I'm going to play next year. Spoilers.
Can we have a time machine to go back a year and tell your
I
old
can't
self?
believe it. I can't believe it. Let me tell you, like unreal. But like, if you go back and watch the Bobo coverage, I watched Daniil play with him, and he's playing like 4D chess just with himself. Fucking unreal. Like, and if
Yeah.
anything, Forbidden Power has just like pumped this army up. They've got some cool mechanics, and arguably their mechanics for summoning are just as good as Hedonites. So just wicked. 3%. They're really unpopular. Well, not really unpopular, but like that kind of like thinner end of popularity, which is also something I'm attracted to. You don't see them a lot, so I'm excited to use them.
Yep.
But they're sat already on a 54% win rate, so they're a bit of a dark horse, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and the builds kind of vary. I know Daniil was using the demon change host one, but um, when you see those 4 and 5 wins pop up, the builds are very very different. And yeah, big shouts to a friend of the show, Joe Cryer, who part of Team USA. He's consistently getting 4 and 5 wins with them still, even though people have thought they were slightly on the lower tier. So.
and also, you're allowed to play Zinch now without people hating you, which is nice.
Yeah, as long as you
Next,
don't use Skyfires, right?
yeah,
Is that
that's fine.
not Skyfires? Sorry, Enlightened now.
Either,
As long as you don't use
either. As long as
Enlightened.
as long as there's not a fucking beast on a disc, we're
Yeah.
fine. And talking about beast on a disc, beasts of chaos, 2.8% of the meta there,
Yeah,
and they're sat on a 53% win rate, which is in our Goldilocks chain, as is Disciples of Zinch. It really is a couple of builds, but that's to do a disservice to a bunch of different lists that are coming out of Beast of Chaos that are going 4-1. We're seeing like
yeah,
MSU Enlightened, as opposed to like the Swamp list that did so well. We're seeing summoning lists. We're seeing a bunch of stuff. We're even seeing, and it's like some of their stats. You see in the allegiances that you can, the battalions you can take inside of Beast of Chaos being used in Slanesh armies, inside Tzeentch armies, or even inside Khorne armies, and specifically Matt Hinton, still one of my favourite lists this year, inside a Nurgle army.
yeah,
So there's some real legs from the Beast of Chaos book. It's really exciting if you want to paint up a bunch of Gore or Bestigor, especially as probably the Gore and Bestigor will come down in points, you would hope, in the GHB, whereas Enlightened and Zangor will go up. So that'd be nice. Blades of Corn, very popular, and they got a new book soon, so even more popular, 7%, and then they're rocking a 49% win rate. So they are our golden children. They're just there, just like, we're super popular and we're average as fuck. Brilliant, right?
yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Oddly enough, they are tied for with Stormcast and Iron Jaws for the most 0 wins recorded. Read into that what you will, but yeah, they have a good spread across all of the win columns.
Yeah. So then, Blades of Corn, wicked shout. I think actually, I was saying this yesterday on the show. I actually think the Blades of Corn probably has got like a lot more like depth to it and strength wise. It's just going to take some time. We obviously saw Blades of Corn take out Cancon, just done really well, and again done in a way that was just a little bit subtle. It was like not
Hmm.
like I'm using all of my blood tide to like strike again, or it was just I'm going to move. Just that movement utility. And it was just done really well, in my opinion. And it's
Yes.
just it's those kind of like taking the foot off the gas a bit. Just movement is as important to me as striking again or summoning a unit that really made that event that Corn Army win. Sorry, I just stumbled over all my words there. It's just awful, isn't it? Hashtag most mediocre Blades of Corn. Uh, Gloomspite Gits, very popular across the globe, 5.7%. So they're kind of really going up there. Not as popular
Yeah.
as Corn, though.
And they were a
However,
brand new faction. Let's get that out there as well. This
yeah.
was a brand new book. It wasn't like with Blades of Corn. Yes, they had a new book, but a lot of these stats are rolled in from the previous book because it
Mm.
was basically the same thing. Whereas Gloomspites was brand new. So to see that many players use it in, I think they came out in February, was it? So it's only a short amount of time, really.
So, however, unfortunately, 43%, so just a little bit under our Goldilocks chain. And don't forget, the
Yeah.
Goldilocks chain is 10%. So once you start getting under, you really are really getting into a 43% win rate. That's just,
Hmm.
and they're just in a tough spot. And I know we saw Richie do so well at Bobo going 5-0. And arguably Richie's a really solid player, and Gloomspite play not I don't want to not incredibly similarly, and he's done a really great review on the Just Play podcast if you'd want to go
Yes.
listen.
Yeah.
Um, uh, but Sylvaneth and board control, and then also board control coming out of Gloomspite is a good shout. But
Yeah.
yeah, the pilot is going to be a lot to do with that win rate, and also people pick up Gloomspite armies because they just want to have a laugh, and the models are great.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? I did a bit of a disservice as far as the whole 30% thing. That was an average. What Professor T actually found was um, player influence was also largely dependent on faction. So maybe Gloomspite is one of those factions where a player matters more, right?
Yeah, because most of them are just trying to pull janky tricks and play practical jokes on the people they're playing. Or like Gloomspite players are some of the best players, right? They're just
Yeah,
up there.
yeah. And I
Right.
think now that Donal has stopped playing them, that win percentage might start going up as well, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably very true. Because he was intentionally tanking the stats, so they got even cheaper in this General's Handbook. So then he's going to play them for the next year at the even cheaper cost because he's a long term strategist as opposed to a short term strategist.
Yeah, he's like the Mr. Glass of Warhammer right now, I feel.
Uh, yeah.
He's just got he's got the long term plans going on.
Yeah, he's smart. What's alcohol's effect on this stats? That's a stat we'll be putting into the future, I think. Nighthaunt though, 3.7% popularity, 44% win rate. So they're all right. They're doing okay. I think you're going to see them do a lot better from the Legion of Grief, but that'll be tied into Legions. It just needs looking at the Nighthaunt stuff because just Nighthaunt stuff is better in Legions than Nagash. So
Yes.
but everyone who's played them and done well with them, solid shout. Sylvaneth, 5%, pretty popular faction, 50%. So hashtag most average. I wonder if we're going to see this continue.
Yeah, they were
Very,
always kind of the 4-1 faction at major events. Like every time, it was kind of a long running joke for a while that they went 4-1 again. They'd always stumble at the last hurdle. So, but as of recently, they're not even getting a whole lot of 4-1s. It's kind of more been that three wins is where they've been sitting. So, I don't know what's normalized them. Oddly enough, I don't know if it's players or just the new armies that they can't keep up with. So the new book will certainly have some big changes. So
yes, I think so. Especially as it's not going to be one drop anymore. So here, I can't wait to see what Silver players do with that. To be honest, Fire Slayers, not the most popular faction, 1.2%. But people who play them love them, and 53% win rate. So a solid shout
yeah,
on their output as well. I would say that that's because you pick up that army because you love them, you love the idea of them, and then you play them well. So
yes,
I definitely would attribute the higher win rate to the low player base, in my opinion.
yeah. And because of the low player base, that has been trending upwards since the new book. Because obviously, with less representation, the more wins are mattering at this point. So they were hovering just sub 50 prior to the new book. So they are actually putting up some results now, which is pushing them up a little. Good to see.
Yeah, we also one of the most well known, but two of the most well known, at least English Sylvaneth players, both Richie and Laurie,
Yeah,
have switched to other armies. So
make of that what you will.
yeah, so pay your respects to the Sylvaneth armies
Yeah.
out there in the world. Sinise in the chat is saying loads of Sylvaneth popped up on sale sites this weekend. Um, Interesting. But I know the Australians who really don't give a fuck about us or the stats, or basically common decency, have told us that that they're all building trees and they're going to make it work. So I respect
Yeah.
that. And also, don't forget, life finds a way. So, however, Fire Slayers, I think that's really cool. I love it when the Fire Slayers is a nice treat to play as well. They play very differently. They're like uh, they're quite unique to play against, I would say, especially the new Fire Slayers, which I think are a really good shout. I think 4-1 sometimes, 5-0 occasionally when piloted really well. So they've got. I was going to say they've got the legs, but they really don't.
No.
But they got the bodies. Right, Seraphon. Oh, my love. 3.1% popular faction because who doesn't fucking love laser dinosaurs? 45%. So not quite in the poor category, but they're doing okay. Fairly, they're in a toughish spot. But it's been a while since they've had an update.
Yeah, yeah. They're just struggling to compete with some of the big boys right now.
Yeah. Dan Hammer CG says, "Fuck stats. Stats are made to be broken." I think I'd
Yeah.
agree. I'd agree with that too. And then Elfro says, "Give me all the fucking trees." Screams in Entish. Yeah.
Where are the Entwives? We lost them.
Where are the Entwives? That's what we need to know. Right, so Seraphon are in a little bit of a tough spot. They've got one of the oldest battle tomes still on sale. I think it's one of the most popular battle tomes on sale as well. Almost certain they'll be getting a new book this year or sometime soon. So you could see that. But even if they don't, I think they've still got some hot, solid picks. And really big release this weekend when it comes to the stats would be Forbidden Power. The endless spells inside there are gonna they breathe some new life, especially to the lower tier armies, and Seraphon are one of them in my opinion. Mixed,
Yeah.
yeah,
Movement is always huge, as we said. So a lot of these lower performing armies is largely due to not having that movement or board presence. So the new stuff really helps with that, right?
Agreed. So then you got Mixed Order, the
Yeah,
competitive player's dream. This is a bunch of people who at one point took either crossbows or some phoenixes and added some other shit. That's how you
yeah.
describe this faction. However, the 2.4% of those tryhards, and then those tryhards only manage 45%. So try harder, tryhards. Right.
Gotta try harder.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Iron Jaws. Come on, boys. Come on. Right, here we go. So a popular faction, 3.7%. They're in that kind of like 3 to 5% faction. They have got
yeah,
the unique pleasure of being the top performer in 0 wins,
yeah, yeah,
and they are 37% win rate.
yeah, yeah. That's these are like the opposite flesh eater courts. Like if you've got flesh eater courts like just breaking at the top of the stats, poor old Iron Jaws sitting down there at the bottom there really needs some love. So hopefully they get a new book soon too as well.
Varkwing says in the chat, the main issue with the Iron Jaws is all of their good abilities require dice rolls to activate. Also bravery, also the also the units, the spell lore, and the points. But apart from that, they're pretty good.
Yeah, the models are nice, right?
Yeah.
That's some good things.
That's the ultimate. That's the ultimate your shit army. It's like, do you like this army? Oh man, the models are nice. That's like, when you go to a wedding and all of your friends are married, and then they turn to you. Some of you guys won't have this experience. But this is my experience. And then they turn to me and they go, "So how's life, Rob?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm doing some stuff." And they go, "Well, that's nice. At least you got your health." And I'm like, "Oh fuck." Fucking bury me in the sea.
Yeah,
So Iron Jaws players, bless your hearts. I'm really hoping you get, pretty much a 50-point drop on every single unit that you've got in your book, and a 200-point drop on Maw Crushers. Because who just doesn't want to see 4 Maw Crushers running around? They're pretty shit
that'd be
anyway.
good.
So
Yeah.
a bunch of Iron Jaws players just currently just punched a dry white wall. They were just like, "How dare you fucking say that Maw Crushers shit? They're my favourites." Um, Legion of Asgore, yes. The fucking
Yeah,
the little fellas who
need
couldn't.
nerfing.
Zero
They're too powerful. Look
Too
at that.
powerful. 0.9% not popular. And that's because everyone else is not cool. We're like the supreme brand of wargaming. 57% win rate. Fuck yeah.
It's
All
up
right.
there. It is up there. I think you're responsible for, I think 3 or 4 of those results on there. So good job.
Yeah. I just fucking can't beat Flesh Eater Courts. They suck. Although I'm going to beat them when I teleport 65 glaives to the bridge and shoot them to death. Fucking dicks. Can't wait. Legion of Asgore, we got this. Right. Carriage and Overlords, 2.1%. The real dwarf army with a gun is 37% win rate. So they are shockingly bad. 2.1%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not doing good. Yeah. Just to speed things up here, we've got a bunch of factions kind of sub 1% coming up. Do you want
So
to just pick out, I guess the only other one above 1% going down is going to be like Beastclaw Raiders, which would be a major faction.
all right. Well, no. So, Gutbusters are a major faction, so they're not super popular. I'd like to pick a couple out that people
Yeah.
would like to play, but they're just
Yeah.
so bad that they can't. Right.
Let's do that then. Yeah.
So, as an example, Dispossessed, 0.3%. So really, really unpopular, and you're in there because of the stats, right?
I'm in there. Yeah. To be fair, it's a bloody hard army to play. I'm trying to, to pick up an army like that and to play it at an event the first time was probably not the greatest idea I ever had.
Best idea.
Or that Twitter ever had. But they really showed me the disparity between what old Age of Sigmar was and what new Age of Sigmar is. In that I was playing a different game. It felt it was like.
At least you had to learn a lot less rules.
There were so many rules with Dispossessor. That's the problem.
There's
none
a
of
lot
them
less.
do anything.
Yeah, that's true. None of them do anything, but there's a lot less than playing some of the other factions. Believe me. But 40% win rate. So they're 5% below our Goldilocks chain. They're not used a lot, but it's a great model range, and I'm sure people would like to take them. That's one I wanted to pick out.
the new movement stuff should help with that, but then you've got to ally in that magic user to bring that in. But yeah, movement is obviously their biggest weakness. It just means you can't. Whenever you do try and, well, my experience in Bobo, whenever you kind of get to that point where you could break through or could take the game, and you probably find this with Legions of Asgore to a degree, you just don't have the ability to push through, right? Whereas you've got Kadivo, so that does help to some degree. But yeah, it was, even when you see the gap or see the mistakes, very hard to capitalize on. So big round of applause to Dispossessed Dan for his for doing so well with that army for so long. So
Yeah, absolutely. Some other armies I think people would like to take would be Wanderers, of really underrepresented, 0.4%. Even though they've got allegiance abilities and 37% win rate, they are just trash tier in their performance. But I think people are taking them for fun, and it's a nice little model range. I'm sure some people would like to take that as well.
yeah,
Talking about Scourge Privateers, the one man himself with his 50% win rate, but it's a quite large collection of models that you could buy to put in there. Really, it's as big as like say something like Carriage and Overlords in the volume of models available kits wise. And they literally got one person playing them, so big love. Talking about that, Swifthawk Agents, same category, another bunch of elves. So you hope they all get tied in together, sat on the 50% win rate, but just a single person as well. But he's a babe. Darkling Covens, on the other hand, the same guy going to all the same events, just one man. I think it might be a couple of men, but 42% win rate with one person going 4-1. What a legend.
yeah, he did very, very well.
Yeah. Bone Splitters, a battle tome that's been out a while and very attractive to pick up, nearly at the 1% in popularity, but 51% win rate. And actually, arguably, you've seen a lot of kind of high-end gamers picking up a particular Bone Splitters build and putting it on the tabletop but for team events, because it's quite polarizing, but even at Acon seeing it go 4-1. So there's something there, and with the right points move around, even without Battle Tome come GHB, it could be a thing realistically. Free Peoples, I'm sure some people would like to pick them up. 42%, and I think that's an Order Draconis, a little popular build at the moment. 0.6% have been for about a year. So if you haven't seen the Order Draconis build, search it on the Wargame website. 50% win rate, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it was higher at one point. There was actually, I think, 4 or 5 Order. Well, we'll see when we get to the Bobo stats. There was quite a lot of Order Draconis turn up to Bobo, which it, every time it seems that's the case. It's like Bobo is the Order Draconis playing ground. It seems.
Yeah, and then the Gutbusters, 1%, 0.8%, and a 34% win rate. So,
Yeah,
and again, another great little model range, weirdly broken up into a bunch of different units and different factions, and then put together, and they're just not doing very well. So the ogres really need some love.
Ogres need some love. Yeah, they could even look at combining them in with Beast Claw, who are also sub. I mean, they're on 30% win rate, 1.5% as far as meta percentage. So they're even represented more than Gutbusters. But yeah, just bringing the ogres back together might give them a few more options. And I think would be amiss not to close out with the worst performing faction in Age of Sigmar 2.2.
Yeah, tell us who it is.
Slaves to Darkness, come on down with your 25% win rate.
They're so bad. Like,
they're so bad.
Why did Daniel just give them a mark of chaos? Like, just do it.
They were closer to 20% going into Bobo. So as we'll see, there were a couple of results at Bobo which actually, yeah, this win percentage was lower before, believe it or not. So 25%. There we go. They win a quarter of their games.
Absolute madness, right? So that's been a nice kind of recap of where we're at in Age of Sigmar, like leading out. I think it's quite nice. So some people always say, why do I never hear stats on this army or that army? So I tried to pick out quite a few of them, and we got to almost all of them, I think.
Yeah, we went down the whole list there. I think if you're looking at it as, what Age of Sigmar is right now at tournaments, as far as what you're going to be playing either within the event or especially when you get to the top tables. If you look at this breakdown, look at the top 6 or 7 armies, and that's basically your field most of the time. So
Yeah. So right, the 2.1 versus 2.2 comparison here.
yeah,
So what you've got is the meta percentages and then the difference, and then you have the win percentages and the difference. So Phoenix Temple riding at the top there on the win percentage difference, but as we said, that's an aberrant stat.
yeah. So just kind of it's nice up there with, we don't like to delete any stats, so just kind of take that one with a pinch of salt, and the rest of the table is pretty relevant.
Yeah, agreed. Sinise is just pointing out that safe starters do get reroll hit rolls of 1 sometimes in their army, so that could be all.
Sometimes, yeah,
That could be all the
becomes great.
difference. Right, Daughters of Cain, a little less popular than they were previously. So between AOS 2 to Christmas and then Christmas to now, but they're in that 1%, so it's fine. But 6.6% down on their win rate. Fleshy Court's 5% more popular, 16% increase in win rate. So just doing the work, really. Heed Knights floating about the same, but a 10% increase in their win rate, which some of us are putting down to Wrath and Rapture, right? The cheap fiends doing the work.
Yeah, although they went up, it's really, the new book's so interesting because the stuff that was good and cheap actually went up in points, but then they had a lot more. The army had a lot more abilities gifted to them throughout the battle tome. So it looks to be a semi decent job right now.
Good. All right, sweet. Then we have some pretty standard stats. That's pretty nice. But the big one here, Beast of Chaos. We saw a little bit of increase in popularity, but a big 15% win increase in the win rate there.
Yes.
But Fire Slayers is the ones to talk about. I'd say that nearly
Mm-hmm.
10% win rate increase for not really much of a popularity difference. So just their book hopefully doing the work there. That would be the interpretation I'd give that.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And you can see that with that's obviously the case with obviously Flesh Eaters and well, we don't know about Head Knights right now, but yeah, you can see when these armies have got new books how they've gone better, so to speak.
Yeah, got to do a big shout out to my bros, the Dispossessed, doing a 10% increase in their win rate, which I think is cool. Devoted to Sigmar getting a 40% increase because of Simon, but that's just because he took it all on his own.
Yeah, so some of these large ones, if you look, it's because they have 0% in 2.1. It means they weren't represented. Things like Skaven were obviously represented under Chaos before they got their own allegiance. So that's why they went from 0 to 60 like that. But the other one like that would be the Git mob. People just like to pick out these factions that I don't have data on, it seems, just so I have to
No, they intentionally
spend
pick it
hours.
because they intentionally
Yeah,
pick it because you don't have data on it, and it
yeah.
makes them chuckle. They've literally said in the chat right now that that's why they do it.
That's fantastic. Yeah, if you can't win at Age of Sigmar, just make my life hell. That sounds really good.
Right. So that's that's everything for the global stats. But now
Yes.
we're going to go into a deep dive of the Bobo 2019 analysis, right?
Yeah, yeah. Let's go back up. So if you're following along at home and you're on the website, go back up the table. We're going to go to Bobo 2019 final standings, which is quite important for a number of reasons. I just want to call out the most important piece of information on this whole table. Right near the bottom, number 24, is a fellow called Lyndon Wedgwood. He did fantastically well with Gloomspite Gits going 4-1. But more importantly, we have his record. It
Nice.
is in here. He is previously the only man in the stats to dodge being recorded
In the world.
in the world.
In the world.
So we now have him, and I can't for the life of me think how anybody forgot this guy. He looks like the Incredible Hulk. He's a big guy, super nice guy as well. But 5 people at Bobo 2018 forgot that they played Lyndon Wedgwood, and this time we got him. We got him, guys.
Maybe he's a man in black. That's what he is. Yeah, no one knows who he is.
Yeah, it's just so charming. Just Yeah, don't remember that guy, but yeah, fantastic.
Right, 2019. So the final standings there. So Jack
Yes.
came in first with Daughters of Cain. Dan Scaventide in second place, and Richie Gloomspite. Now we've already covered these on the show when we did the wrap up show, right?
Yeah, yeah. So the big takeaways here is we've gone down to 25th place just so I could include Lyndon Wedgwood in there primarily, to be honest,
Nice.
because there were some more forum ones as well. But if we look, we have 6 factions getting 5 wins.
Mm.
Scaventide, 2 5+ wins in
Yeah,
that group,
yeah.
which is quite big.
Can I do a big shout out to Leo as well?
Yes.
Smashing it with Sylvaneth. I think that's a wicked result there.
Yeah.
Richie's result is also good as well, but Leo's result with Sylvaneth is really good.
Yeah, we get 5-0 for Leo, and he was running the Dreadwood, which we haven't seen in forever, I don't think, right? People had moved away from the Dreadwood, so he brought it back for the tournament, which
Yeah.
was cool.
Go on.
But we do have we have quite a large spread of Skaven and Flesh Eaters, which is you can see that at a glance, hopefully there. So.
Yeah, and big love to the other armies that you can see in there, and also got to do number 8th place, Colin Cochrane, one of my favourite people in the world, Irish Nathan Prescott. He's just a superstar. Coming in 8th there. Max, pretty new to Age of Sigmar, realistically, posting a really solid result for Flesh Eater Courts. I know he's doing lots of practice. Also, big love to Craig, because Craig just does. Picks up armies all day long and then just does quite well with them. So he deserves some love there. Phil McGuinness as well with Scaventide doing the work.
Yeah.
But then getting onto it for armies you don't see much. So Mark Wildman with Blazer Corn, he potentially could have won the event. So rocking Corn Archeon, really interesting list. JJ Cropley, like literally started playing Age of Sigmar last year. JJ's a young fella, one of my favorite people currently in Age of Sigmar.
JJ is amazing.
He's
Yeah,
just,
he
yeah.
perma smile. The guy doesn't stop smiling. If you ever meet him or play him or anything, he's such a nice fella.
Yeah. But he'll be smiling while he kicks you in the teeth with his Skaven.
Oh yeah, totally, yeah.
Yeah, and also if you
Not,
go back and track his first ever competitive event, I think was Crimbobo, so
yes.
fairly recently. And Chucklebutty kind of followed him through the event with his in-stage interview. So it was really sweet watching him go from that to go 11th in a 200-person event, basically. So just wicked. Will, always a consummate professional and just kicking it with those Idoneth Deepkin. Will to me is kind of one of the Idoneth Deepkin players that stands out to me as a consistent. Josh doing really well with Fire Slayers. Fire Slayers coming 13th is cool, right?
Yeah, 4-on-1 again, so that's fantastic. There wasn't many Flyer Slayers at the event, so yeah, Josh did well there. And another one that jumps off the page there, you've got one of the Bruces, Alex Bruce on Mixed Order. He always seems to do well with that random assortment of miniatures.
No, he's not one of the Bruces.
Is he not one of the Bruces?
No, the Bruces don't have Bruce in their name. It's very confusing. But don't worry about it. But Alex is great and one of the most prepared people that you're going to play at Warhammer as well with that Mixed Order army, and has been doing quite well with it all the time. Daniil has been the inspiration for me wanting to play Tzeentch, so big love to you. He played 4D chess with himself on the stream, which was one of the funnest things to ever see. Declan smashing it with Blaze of Corn, really good. Michael Scaventide, Ben there with his Daughters of Cain. And then as we saw, Lyndon Wedgwood, JP Gannis down there. So, but you're right, as it gets to Skaven, Flesh Eaters, Skaven, with the occasional Daughters, right?
Yeah. So as we scroll down, we can see that a little more clearly. So this is the full Bobo results, AOS Bobo 2019 analysis for people following along, and this is sorted by 5+ wins into 4+ wins into match win percentage. So, yeah, Skaven. So although Skaven didn't win the event, in my opinion, I think they were the best army there. And this kind of follows along from what you were saying earlier as far as...
This is cool. We haven't done this before. This is exciting.
Yeah. So it just gives you a better outlook of the event, hopefully, as far as the podium does obviously say something, and congrats to everybody that made top 3. But if you look at the story of the event as a whole, I think if you start looking at the 5 and 4 wins, it gives you a bit more of a an idea of what was going on the day. So yeah, Skaven definitely. I mean, we had 14 players, which was a massive 7% of the meta at Bobo, 7% of the armies there. But to get 2 5 wins and then 5 4+ wins is quite huge. So fully half of the players, half of the Skaven players that attended Bobo went 4-1 or better, which is a huge stat in my opinion.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Now, not saying that you're guaranteed to do that, but like you said, 66% win rate, which
Yes.
is above FYI the worldwide stats, which I think is also an important difference to make as well, right? So
Yeah, as we said, Skaven have almost been getting better as time has gone on, as people have kind of started solidifying builds, because there was so much in that book that it wasn't as, let's say, point and click as Flesh Eaters that came out of the gate really fast. But yeah, as you'd identified months ago, that as towards the end of AOS 2.2, Skaven might be sitting on top, and it seems we're seeing that in events now.
yeah. So then Daughters of Cain, again with a 60% win rate, which is down on the global average, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's to do with Heinrad, though. Sorry,
Nah, Heinrad's a babe. Heinrad's
he's
smashing
a
it.
he's a
Yeah,
good guy. No,
yeah.
he takes it well. But yeah, they did have the one win in there and 2 wins as well. So, but they still, as a percentage, they still almost half of the Daughters players went 4-1 or better, which is good.
So the most popular faction, Gloomspite gets, not to jump
Yeah.
past Sylvaneth, but 19 armies there, but then they eventually settled out at a 43% win rate.
Yeah, which is very close to their actual pre-Bobo match win percent rate.
That's really interesting. That they pretty much performed on par with how they're doing globally, especially when you had a big set of them doing it.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And the more data you have, when you see something like that, it solidifies the result a little more. If it was 4 or 5 Gloomspite players, it's like okay, but the fact that it was such a large number of Gloomspite all falling within the pre-Bobo match win percentage, it's yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, so not to jump past Sylvaneth, Sylvaneth there, pretty solid win percentage, 57%, a little bit up. 7 factions being there as well. Beasts of Chaos, 10 Beasts of Chaos armies. That's badass.
Yeah,
That's
huge.
really, really cool. So way above like where they normally are popularity wise. 56% win rate as well. So solid. So they're in our Goldilocks chain, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, looking good. And then we're going on to some of the usual suspects. So yeah, again, Bobo one of the first major events that Flesh Eaters did not 5-0. A lot of 4-1s, a lot of 3-2s. But if you look, there was one person on 0 win. Now I don't know if they were a drop. I couldn't confirm that from Johnny's numbers, but if we kind of forget about that 0 win, Flesh Eaters did put let's not forget about it. Flesh Eaters put 90% of their players at 3 or 2 or better, which is
So that means they won 3 games and then lost
exactly
2. Yeah. So Flesh Eater Courts, you can pretty much guarantee having 3 wins is what we were
yeah,
effectively saying. Um,
exactly yeah, and that falls in line with their 60 plus win percentage across the board globally as well. So it's one of those armies that you can point at and know that you're gonna do well. I think because it doesn't have this huge range of um, like a Skaven, for instance, has, if you look at the overall stats, has everything from 5 wins all the way down to 0 wins. Flesh Eaters wins are very focused in that 3+ kind of bracket across the board, regardless who's playing them, which I think says a lot about how the faction is, let's say, easier to use than some of the others.
so the stupidest stat I can see is an 80% win rate for Darkling Covens.
It is, yeah. So we've looked at the winners there. If we scroll down to the next table, speaking of win
The
percentages,
analysis.
let's have a look.
Oh, look at that top of the charts, baby. Top of that chart,
Yeah.
Darkling Coven. So this is what table am I looking at here?
So we're looking at the it's the same data, it's still the Bobo analysis, but now we've sorted it by match win percentage and match win difference. So um, same table, different story, or is it? Or is it?
Or
So
is it?
or is it? So Darkwing Covens, yeah, got to give big props out there. There was only one player though, so unfortunately that is what we'd call an aberrant stat,
Hmm.
just so people can see that. But I think Bobo was the story of Skaven. When you sort data in multiple ways and get the same results, that's when you start to see what we'd call trends.
Yeah.
Um, and as you can see, Skaven are at the top, Flesh Eaters are at the top, Daughters of Cain are at the top.
So,
So
are me and the numbers in agreement for once that Skaven are the best?
I think right now, Skaven could be called the best. At least they were the best at Bobo,
Mm,
for certain.
yeah.
They were the best performing faction at Bobo. Despite not winning the event, I still think Skaven won Bobo.
Yeah, like for instance, like some of the Skaven losses, I know for a fact that in the final bracket there was a Skaven mirror match. So final bracket would be in Swiss, where all the players have already won all their games previous, and then in the final bracket, both players 4-0, and it was Skaven mirror match. So one of the losses from Skaven was to Skaven, right?
Yes, yeah, and there was a lot of that also with Flesh Eater Corpse as well. Especially going into like game 3 from memory. And you can see all this on the Honest Wargamer coverage because I think you was tracking the top 10 tables every round.
We didn't bother because the brackets are so broad. We only started at round 4.
Round 4,
Yeah,
okay, yeah, but there was still when you started tracking those top 10 tables, um, you could see quite a lot of the
but
whatever round that was. There was a lot of Flesh Eater mirror matches going on during
and
that.
also the Manta. If you do watch the Bobo coverage that you can watch on YouTube or back on Twitch, Chukwubutti, our man in the field, was bringing a lot of that info out,
Yes,
especially talking about those mirror matches. And he's just in the chat right now. Big love to you, Adam. He says big thing to note about FEC is they had tons of mirror matches in Game 3.
yeah, that's what I'd found as well. So that could have resulted. And let's not forget to mention the daughters mirror match, the big one between. Or was there a daughter? No, there wasn't a
There
daughters
wasn't a
mirror match.
Daughters mirror match. There wasn't a
No,
Daughters mirror match.
forget me.
But
We wanted there to be a daughters mirror match, but Mark Wildman ruined it. So
yeah,
thanks, Mark.
like he ruins most people's day, and that's okay. I'm allowed to say that we used to be friends. So, cool. All right. So interesting stats. So Darkling Coven's doing good, but like, effectively what we're saying is that Skaven really did put their showing in, especially in such a broad field. Very popular, 14 armies of them. Flesh Eater Corps 15. So they were the third most popular faction. No, not third, but like up there, basically. And
Yeah. What tends to happen when you get a lot of factions attend an event, and we mentioned this about Stormcast and Legions and the Gash, is their results will get watered down because you'll have more. You'll have a wider range of players, and they'll play different armies,
yeah,
right?
so
So a good,
if we look, Legions
yeah,
of the Gash had 16 players.
yes,
But they ended up at I think a 54% win rate, so they're in our kind of like nice little Goldilocks territory. I think that's right.
50%, I think, bang on.
50%. All right, thank
Yeah,
you. I'm reading that wrong.
perfect.
Yeah, so just exactly what you're looking for, truth be told. So,
Yeah.
and then so that's Legions, and then Stormcast
Yeah, Stormcast were slightly under par, at just over 40%. But
with
again,
15
yeah,
armies.
15, yeah, and same with Gloomspite, which we already looked at up top. So Blades of Corn, similar, right?
Well,
So
that's a nice comparison then. 15 Stormcast armies, 40%
yeah,
win rate.
yeah,
14 Skaven armies, 66% win rate.
yeah, 15 Flesh Eater Courts, 61% win rate.
So basically, Skaven and Skaven are 26% at Bobo at least were 26% better than than Stormcast, and Flesh Eater Courts were 21% better than Stormcast, which is just crazy numbers. Like we said, there's you want to fit everything into a 10% variance, so the highest you want is like a 10% variance. So just crazy stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So that's yeah. looking at these kind of analysis is where you can start to draw conclusions, and it might be a little late in the day considering the General's Handbook's already been printed, but hopefully someone did this work way before we did. So it will be an interesting time for sure in the next few weeks.
It really will. I'm really looking forward to our wrap-up show. This has been a really fun show. It's been nice, like, kind of resetting the ground for the ongoing story of where we are at competitively for Age of Sigmar. So, LLV, thank you very much for taking us through that.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for everyone, Bobo, who I managed to spend not enough time with. It kind of came and went before I know it. So
did you have a good time?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I should have got more sleep. I might have spent as much time partying as I did gaming, unfortunately, for my body. But it was, the spirit there is quite unlike anything else that
but you won the respect of the crowd by going out with them at the same time. So
yeah, day 2 on 3 hours sleep, I think it was I guess that's the Bobo tradition. So I Boboed properly, at least. So, and I made game 2 and I finished all my games on time. So despite being in a horrible state. So, and best dispossessed, just saying, I might be the best dispossessed player in the UK right now. So I'd like to see someone get out there and take my title.
What's interesting is there's never a dispossessed player in the UK who's ever from the best dispossessed player in the UK is never from the UK. So at one point it's been a Swede, now it's a Canadian. So at one point maybe it was dispossessed Dan when he came over. So everyone in the UK. I just want to say good night to Elf Bro. He says night all. Remember, life finds a way. Loads of love and hope for Sylvaneth. Donaldina says he enjoyed chatting with you, LLV.
Great guy. Yeah.
Twas beautiful, albeit short. I don't know if he's making a short joke there, but I think he'd be rich.
I think we're both in that camp. Yeah, but I think he's slightly taller than me. I think he had those Skechers pump-up things on though, so he might have been cheating. I didn't see.
Cindy Carriot says, thanks for the breakdown. That's been awesome and really informative. Our pleasure. Salathon, life finds a way. Life finds a war. So again, hoping for those Iron Jaws players as well. Life finds a war.
They need it. Life finds a war. Yeah, they need something. We all need to go and check out that player that did 4-1 in Notorious GT. We need to find his list and find out how he achieved what seems to be the impossible, because that was pretty solid result there.
Oh, the Pure Hybrid TW says, thank you both. I don't even play AOS or any tabletop games, but I consume a hell of a lot of your content, so your reach is bigger than you know. Oh, thank you. I did not know that. That's cool.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and speaking about that, you guys are wonderful. So if you've been watching back on Twitch, you guys are wicked. All you guys in the chat just joining us. And what's really nice when we do the stat shows, like I said today, I think at one point we had like 8 to 10 countries represented in the Twitch chat, which is just amazing. And I'm sure there's even more of you listening around the world on the podcast. So thank you to you guys. If you're watching back on YouTube, leave a comment. Let us know where you're from and let us know what armies you play, what stats you like. It'd be really cool to hear from. If you're watching on Facebook, some likes and thumbs as well. That'd be sweet. But thank you to everyone on Twitch who subscribes, and also on Patreon who subscribes to that. And then to everyone who put money towards the GoFundMe so we can do better coverage. You guys are helping us make this into like a really well-informed, healthy, global sport. So T Sports is here and you guys are the best. So thank you for that. And thank you to you, LLV. Yeah,
thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure. It's nearly 8 o'clock in the morning now, so yeah, it's good. It's my good wake-up call.
Time to start your day. You guys are wonderful. We'll see you all soon. Don't forget, life finds a war.